Hey guys, this is Jon
and Nicole,
and welcome back to Fill Me In, where we dive deeper into the world of aesthetics. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about our practices because we get so many questions about how do we open up a practice, what does it entail? And I know in the last episode we kind of touched base on like our journey, like how we kind of started and where we are now, but we kind of wanted to dive deeper on like our practice and how we got here.
Yeah. So tell me, what was your deciding factor? What caused you to want to open your own place?
I just wanted to do things my way, I think. And I think that's kind of general.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like there was just kind of a moment that I went home and I looked at my fiance and I said, I want to open up my own practice. He goes, are you sure? And I said, yeah. He goes, is there any doubt in your mind? Right. And I said, no, I'm fully confident. And he goes, okay, there's no doubt. Let's go, let's do it.
I'm laughing because my story is like exactly the same.
Really?
It was like a random Tuesday morning that me and Melissa decided, and I sat my husband down, and he's a very numbers guy.
And he probably thought you were crazy.
Oh, he thought I was crazy. Mm-hmm. And he was like, listen, if you truly have faith in this, and he's like, I trust you and let's do it. Mm-hmm. But that's so funny because it was the deciding factor was the patience. And when you want to make changes in a place that you don't own, it's nearly impossible. You bring up your thoughts and they never really get carried out.
For me, so like when we made that decision to open up the practice, it was like, all right, let's go. What do we need to do? And I think we ended up going on the NewYork.gov website, which has like a whole list of things that you need to do to open up your own business, an LLC, fill out all these certificates for sales tax and like all of this. And there's things I never even thought about, and it's so much work. And I'm so thankful that I had Corey, my fiance, to really help me through it and kind of handle all of that back end stuff a little bit, because I'm obviously like the COO of operations, right? Like that's how I kind of think about it. Like I'm at the front, I'm with my patients, I'm able to do something I love every single day, inject my patients and be at that end of things. And then the back end that people don't really think of, that's where I have some help with a little bit with Corey and things like that, which I handle some of it, but there's no way in hell I could do all of it. I would have to probably hire a team, which I'm sure some people have a team that handles most of the financial part of it.
Yeah. And for me, I have my partner, Melissa, which is huge because we both kind of take turns and have certain specific jobs because it's a lot behind the scenes. You don't think about payroll. And like you said, when you first open LLC and your tax and all of that. And so you didn't hire anybody to do that for you when you first opened. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And I'm really fortunate because I said this in the previous episode, but a lot of medical professionals aren't good business people. And Corey is a really good business person. And, we obviously, I don't know what it's like in Jersey, but in New York, we pay like quarterly taxes. And then, at the very end, there's like a big nut. You're like, oh God.
Exactly the same.
But there's a lot of so many legalities like with it. And the other thing you mentioned, what's the best piece of advice this last episode? You said a lawyer, an accountant.
Yes.
Getting a good accountant.
Yes. We have an accountant, a financial advisor. I mean,
same.
2 bookkeepers.
Okay.
Because it is true. It's like, you think you're paying attention, but.
Do you guys use QuickBooks?
We use QuickBooks, but we use 2 different bookkeepers that watch the QuickBooks. Yeah.
We use QuickBooks as well. In the beginning, we were managing it, and then we were like, no.
You start to realize you're like, I can't keep up with this.
And it was oh my gosh, it was the first year we were going to file taxes. And I'm like, oh my God, no, we need someone, we need help. Yeah. And then last year it just went so much smoother.
Right. Having somebody.
Yeah. And and I think some accountants, like our accountant has like a little minion, I call it, that handles our books and does all day to day.
Yes.
And then the accountant does like everything else. But definitely have a good lawyer, accountant, plus or minus a therapist. And then what else? What else is good, Nicole?
Well, I feel like, hiring employees, I think we really lucked out because when we first started, I was able to hire some people that I personally knew and trusted. I feel like that's really difficult as well. And interviewing was something that we were not good at because, like you said, we're not business people.
No.
So interviewing took a couple of attempts, but definitely finding the right employees and starting slow.
And I think a lot of us are like this. We have that like yellow personality that we talk about. Like, like at least with an Allergan and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I'm a yellow personality. I'm a people pleaser. I don't, of course I'll deal with conflict, but I don't want to, I'm happy.
You don't want to.
I'm optimistic. Oh, this will work, guys. This is great. That's just me.
Yeah.
So that's also something that, as a business owner, you have to make like some decisions,
right? Of course,
and you have to kind of lay the law sometimes, and that was at least hard for me.
Me too,
as well.
Absolutely.
To do out the gate, because then you hold it, you go home, and you're like, oh my god, they hate me. Am I a good boss? Am I this? You always just self-analyze.
So true, so true.
Okay, let's talk about one thing: receptionist, your front end.
Yeah,
it's so important. Like I think it's so underrated. People are like, oh no, you can find a receptionist. I mean, that's the first person that people walk in the door and they see, right? And that I feel like that person can sometimes make the biggest impact.
Absolutely.
For that patient. So I think I always tell my receptionist, I'm like, you have sometimes the hardest job. You deal with people, number one. Number two, you're greeting them, and it's your job to make them feel welcome and comfortable. Also be knowledgeable. And that's something too out the gate in the beginning. I was very lucky. The person who started as my receptionist had a little bit of a history with aesthetics, so she knew some things, right? But we then hired a receptionist, obviously, after our receptionist became an esthetician and stuff like that. And we kind of we had to teach her everything. And I think it really broke it down for me that we have to make sure that she's knowledgeable on our lasers. Like they get a million questions here, and you're like, just book a consultation. But people don't want to do that.
Right.
They just want the consultation over the phone.
Exactly.
Get all their questions answered and then book an appointment.
And of course, you don't want to lose that phone call. So
it's so important. I tell my receptionist, I'm like, whenever you have a phone call, if someone just calls, you get the call, hi, how many dollars a unit is it?
Yeah.
And you're like, 13, 12, 14, whatever. Like, okay, all right, that's all. And you're like, wait, that's when you kind of,
yes.
I always tell them, anyone on the phone, your goal is to try to make an appointment.
Of course.
And bring them in.
Cross them over. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
We've recently taught our receptionists smile and dial, because I know they deal with a ton of.
What is this?
So they deal with a ton of
smile
and dial.
Oh my gosh.
So when you're
Literally.
on the phone with the same patient for 20 minutes asking the same question, and genuinely they truly just don't understand. They're trying to get an understanding before they come in, but it can get frustrating for people that do understand our side in the aesthetics industry and all that. But so we teach them smile and dial. So as long as you have a smile on your face, you're not going to sound mean.
So true. It's so true. I know for me too. I mean, we're in my office. And,
yes, and it's beautiful.
Oh, but it's, there's a smaller reception, and, and I think also too, going into practice, you're going to do a lot of things at your first practice that you're like, why did I do this? Or wish you did differently. But it's good, because then you can plan for the next.
My white chairs.
Your white chairs. My white furniture that my lovely shoes are on right now. It's great. Mm-hmm.
But you learn so much.
You learn a lot. Yes.
So besides all of the back end stuff, our employees and our lawyers and our accountants, I think another major thing is culture and how we've kind of created a new culture in this medical spa
100%
setting. I mean, if you have anything to.
No, I feel like, and I think you'd agree, like this industry is not the most welcoming sometimes. There are so many welcoming people. But I also feel like there's like competition. I mean, there's competition in any profession, but I feel like in the beauty, in the aesthetics industry, it's unfortunate that there's so much competition, which there really shouldn't be, because, we always talk about community over competition, which I know, like annoying to say, it's cliche, but it's so true.
It's so true.
And I think going into like our practices, I think for me, I really wanted to make sure that my employees felt heard and they got proper education and that it just was positivity. Like there's just so much like negativity out there. And I think the more that you focus on your growth, it sounds selfish, but it's really not. Like the more you focus on your practice, your growth, the more you're just going to excel. If you're too busy just comparing yourself to another practice or what they're doing, you're going to be 10 steps behind.
So true. And that's one thing too, because in the past, it's been hard to go to trainings and things like that when you are working for someone else, because you only have so much time off and you can't always do that. But now owning my own practice, we really do put education at the top. And even my own employees have told me, because you're so, educating yourself all the time and doing all these things all the time, it inspires us to want to do that. So they do more conferences, they learn more, they get more certificates, and it inspires everyone.
But I think too, like you're in it for the right reasons, right?
Yeah, no, it's true.
I feel like people, I know right away, like, and that's another thing with trainings, you know, you can tell right away when someone's in that profession for the right reason. I know as nurses, sometimes we're like, oh, they should never be a nurse, right? Like jokingly, but sometimes really, you know? And because like back when we started as nurses, it was job security, like it was all that. I mean, whatever. But
as nurses, I do think because of our background, we have such a different bedside manner, and we genuinely know how to listen to people. And I think that definitely comes across to the patients. And that's major in our practice. Like as a patient, this stuff is very intimidating, and it is scary, and it is your face, and you want someone to listen to you. A lot of these places you go into, and the provider's just kind of like, oh, you need this.
Totally.
It's this amount, and you have no choice. Like we very much listen to the patient and what's bothering them. And if they're open to more, we'll kind of, you know, extend into more, and 100%. We'll work with them. And, you know, you come for one thing, you see how you like it. If you want to continue, we'll do a little bit more. It doesn't have to be intimidating. It doesn't have to be scary. And if you're seeing someone that you trust and continues their education, you don't need to be so worried about all these side effects and adverse events.
I think this is honestly, aesthetics is the business of like listening and empathy.
Absolutely.
You have to have both. But back to like education, like I think it's just so important. Like if your staff and you are more educated, you're going to trainings, I know like sometimes like I feel like, you know, it could be annoying to sometimes patients. Oh my God, they're away again, or I can't get in.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I know you can't get in, but we're also like making sure that we're up to date on X, Y, Z and giving you the best outcomes. Right.
And I think a huge thing too with our education is educating the patient.
Yes.
Because I think that especially is what makes us stand apart. Totally. Is you go to a different med spa, you're not going to get the education you get when you come in. Even if you're just coming for forehead Botox, we're going to explain what muscle that is, why it's happening, you know, what happens if we do too many units, why we want you to come back in 2 weeks and see how it kicked in. If you need more at that point, little touch up, like you get the education that you're not going to get somewhere else. And that's when you don't feel supported. And that's when you might get a bad taste of aesthetics, you know?
Yes. God. Snap, Nicole. Love it. Yes. So true. I know for me personally, I think opening up my practice, there were a couple people that were mentors for me, but not many. So I think this industry is tough with that. And I think, I know for me, for you, we're mentors for a lot of people. And like, I have a soft spot for those people because I mean, we went through it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're still like growing and going through it. Every day is like a new battle or a new thing. So
learning every day, that's for sure.
Oh my God, yes. So I think opening up a practice, it's just important to have the right support. If you're not supported or like loved or like, you know, it's just not going to go well.
Absolutely. And I think too, a lot of nurses have almost like this guilt of leaving the bedside.
Yes.
So even getting into this field, I think is a little bit of a difficult, and people will even tell you like, oh, don't lose your skills. Don't, you know, like it's definitely almost
my skills are still there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we use them every day.
Yes. 100%.
But I think at this last AmSpa conference, I actually met Katie Duke, which love you, Katie Duke. She was so sweet, but she's a great person to follow. If anyone, if any nurses out there are looking to get into aesthetics and they're kind of going through that like guilty phase. I even did it when I left hospital nursing. Like I know you feel like a little funky about it, but she's a really good one to follow right now because she's going through that.
Yeah. I didn't feel guilt. I did not feel guilt. I loved the hospital. I did.
Yes.
COVID changed so much.
Everything.
Like I guess
because I left hospital nursing way before COVID.
Okay.
So for me it was tough, and you know, I left full time. So like I was just gone. So for me it was hard to leave the bedside in a sense.
Yeah.
But I knew hospital wasn't for me. Like I knew I wanted to get into this field, but it was a tough transition.
I never learned how to draw blood in the hospital.
Right, because we weren't allowed.
Yeah, there was an IB team, but I know I think mostly critical care nurses, right? And ER nurses could, you know, start IBs and all that. When I went into aesthetics, that's when I learned how to draw blood and start IBs. So oh
my gosh, no, see, so I had all the IV background and all of that, but we weren't allowed to do blood draws, but yeah.
Now, oh my God, the satisfaction of putting in an IV, oh my God, I can't.
Nothing beats it.
And the Botox crunch, just saying.
Oh my God, you're real. I was dying.
Oh my God. I literally had like 10 Lay's potato chips in my mouth, and my staff was literally like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm doing a reel. It's fine. You'll see it later.
Wait, you
today.
really created that whole thing on your own?
Yes. I had chips in my mouth.
I thought that was a sound you used.
No, I did a sound. You can literally make a video.
Yeah.
I sound like I'm 50 years old, but I literally made a video and then I did a voiceover of me crunching.
That was so good.
Yeah, because I couldn't find. I literally searched like crunch noise. Nothing good.
Oh my God, that's hysterical. I was just talking to a patient about that video.
Really?
Yeah. It was.
We either love or hate the crunch.
Yeah.
For those of you that get Botox,
Botox
I love
crunch.
the crunch. It's like an OCD thing, but oh my God, so funny.
That was a good one.
To add on to that, very side note, but what do you think causes the crunch?
You want me to be honest?
Yes.
You want me to be honest?
People want to know. I mean, I think I know the answer, but I want.
Okay, it's definitely one. Whoever's drawing it up may hit the glass.
Okay.
The bottle. When you're drawing up Botox, it's in a glass bottle.
Yes.
So if the needle hits the side a little, it might get a little dull. 2, if you're injecting deep up here, you're hitting bone, dulled out.
Yes. But I also think dry skin.
Oh yeah. Well, skin texture and skin.
Right?
Some people have very thick,
100%
leathery skin, and
Because there's times I'm like there's no crunch at all. Then there's some people. I mean, they even say they're like, wow.
Every poke, yeah.
Or like the masseters. I think the masseters, if there's a lot of tension there, there's always a little bit more sound effects. Anyway.
Sorry, we went on a tangent.
Sorry, this is, anyway, so you genuinely had a little guilt when you left the bedside?
I did. And you know what? It was from a lot of other people.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of people I worked with at the hospital were
they jealous or?
Maybe. No, but this wasn't a big thing when I left the hospital. I left like 7.5 years ago, and
which is so weird to say that it's true. Aesthetics blew up.
It blew up, and just certain doctors I worked with and stuff were like, don't lose your skills. You never know. You might need to come back to it. And to me, this was such a life-changing moment because it was always what I wanted to do.
But maybe they were saying that because they didn't want you to leave. And they thought you were so great, probably too.
Well, thank you.
But seriously, I feel like the good ones they want to keep forever. Yeah.
But it was a hard move. It was a hard move, and you go from literally saving lives to you're still helping people in a way, but it's a different way. So it was quite the transition, but it was a transition that I genuinely wanted to make. And it's funny. I did AP art in high school. I've always been very artistic.
I did too.
Did you really?
Yes,
oh my God,
honey.
But I always thought I was going to be a tattoo artist.
Really?
Yes. So my whole
Nicole,
senior year.
Do you have a tattoo?
I have like 7, yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
For another podcast.
I have 0.
Really?
0.
But so
I'm nervous. Anyway, keep going.
I always had that artistic side of me, and I eventually got into nursing, and I meshed the two together.
That's so cool. Wow. I didn't know you want to be a tattoo artist.
Yep.
Imagine that life.
I know. And my husband always says, he's like, I was with you when you wanted to do tattoos.
Oh my gosh. Wait, so are you also an esthetician?
I am. Yes. Yeah.
You are?
Yeah.
Because you mentioned in the last episode that you got your aesthetics license, but I wasn't sure if it was
So I had got into nursing, and once I was 2 years in, I never wanted to do hospital nursing, but I had worked in the hospital. I got a job there. It was a great opportunity, and I genuinely enjoyed it. Yes. But I always knew it wasn't where I was going to be forever, and wanted to, my art and I used to do makeup as well. So art and makeup, all that beauty, I wanted to kind of mesh it with my nursing license. So I decided to go to night nursing, and that's when I got my aesthetics license. So I would work from 7 to 7. I would go 8 to 5 for my aesthetics license and go back into work 7 to 7. It was insane. I never slept, but I did it in 6 months. And then, that's when I started working for the plastic surgeon. Okay.
Yeah. Because aesthetic license is 6 months here as well. Insane.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I do not want to go back to those days of working full time and going to school full time.
After I finished my master's, I was like, never again.
Oh my God. The situational anxiety was terrible.
And then every now and then I'm like, should I go back?
Oh my God. I always said, I feel like I went to Moyne College here in Syracuse, and literally I always thought I was going to be forever Dolphin. Dolphin's the mascot, whatever. And because I literally, even after I was done with my bachelor's, I took one master's course a semester just to kind of keep me in. Because I always felt like once I left, I wasn't ever going to come back. It's so much harder to come back and finish.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I give all the moms so much kudos. They graduate college, they have kids, they come back. I don't know if I could do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't miss those days, but like so grateful that we're
yeah.
here.
I know. I took almost 4 years off before going back for my master's. Yeah. Yes. I did my associates, my bachelor's, and then I was like, you know what, I'll do my master's. But that's why I was, I was working full time for the plastic surgeon and doing that. And it was rough, but it was worth it. I think that's a good thing to touch on too, because a lot of questions I get are like, what do you need to inject? And I mean, at least in New Jersey, the lowest is RN, and you have to work under a physician. And anyone has to work under a physician, even a nurse practitioner. We can co-own a practice or manage a practice for medical director, but we can't own it ourselves. But yeah, you have to have at least an RN, and then from there you can.
In New York, you can obviously be an RN to inject. You can't be an esthetician and inject. RN to inject, NP, PA, MD. An RN can actually own their own practice. They just have to have a medical director. Obviously, I'm an NP, so I own this. But yeah, PAs, they still can't. Well, they can own a practice, but they need a medical director. For that. So yes, they can own one as well. So, Crazy. Every state's so different. There's some states that allow estheticians to inject, right? No, it's scary. It's like the wild, wild west. It is. I know. But that's why your lawyers are important. Very. I know. Very. So we touched on how it can be intimidating for the patients to come in and get work done, and TikTok and all these things have really, it takes the bad work and it just sends it everywhere. It's the only thing that goes viral is bad work. I know. So I think patients really, it makes them nervous, and then they don't want to get treated because they're like, I don't want to look like that. So I think a lot of our thing at my practice is making sure that we do very natural results, but they're very impactful. So it's going to make you look more, youthful, rested, but you're still going to look like yourself. Still going to look like you. Yeah. I think like TikTok and Instagram, I mean, it's great. Like, I think it's super educational, but like also like there is bad like education out there. Like forever, like the lip flip versus lip filler. People were coming in, oh my God, I'm getting a lip flip. It's going to make my top lip full. Yeah. It won't make it full. It'll do something else, but it won't make it full. And I think that's why it's like, it's good. At least it gets people like interested in it. Absolutely. And then they can just ask the right questions when they come to their provider. But to add on to that, I think it's important not to go to a provider. It's like, yeah, it'll make your lips full. Let's do it. No, exactly. Say it's going to lessen, a gummy smile, or, make it so your top lip doesn't disappear when you smile. Right. Be honest. I think that's so important. And to add to your point, like every lip is different. Like, they show, people show us pictures all the time. This is what I want to look like. And that's the downfall of social media, is that we compare ourselves all the time to other people. And they're like, is it possible to have my lips look like this? Not all the time. The picture they're showing you is probably face-apped anyway. I know. That's so true. It's filtered too. Yep. I know. I feel like sometimes we look or use filters so much that we forget what is reality. Oh yeah. And that's why I try all the time to not use filters on my social media, because it's what we're selling. We're selling confidence, and you have to be happy with yourself. So and true. That's another huge thing too. Finding an injector that you think looks the way you would like to look. Yes. So finding someone that looks a little bit more natural, doesn't look overdone, doesn't overdo it, right, is a huge thing as well. And I think, like, do you think, like, for instance, like the whole Madonna picture that went viral, like all of that, I mean, that was not just filler. No. It must have been some like fat transfers. Yeah, exactly. And of course she posts that picture when she's healing maybe, and she's like, she looks like Maleficent or something like that. And that's the issue with those, is there's so many opinions on it. Oh my God. And then it just goes rampant through the internet, and all it takes is a patient to see one of them. And then they're like, I never doing this. Like this. Never doing cheek filler. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I know. And that's another misconception. And we could have a whole other episode about this, is like cheek filler, and it will not make you look round. If it's done right, it will lift and contour. Exactly. Right. Exactly. So it's just really important to go to a provider that can educate you and give you accurate advice. Yeah. And I think you made a great point about when they do show you a picture and truly educating them. Some providers, if you come in for a lip flip and you're thinking you're going to get this lip filler result, and they just want the money, they're going to do it for you. 100%. And they're not going to explain to you the difference. Yes. And I can't tell you, you've probably done this too. I mean, like you do exhibit full face.
Yes.
Which is brilliant, by the way.
Thank you.
And I'm working on something for that for Tox Pout still. But when you're doing like full facial balancing, say you do like 6 to 8 syringes, right? And then a year later you see them for a follow-up. There's been some patients I'm like, we don't have to do anything. Like you're good. Sometimes this filler is lasting longer than a year.
Yep.
Which that's a whole other
topic. But that's a great point because it is a misconception. I mean, when I first started in this field, we were doing lips every 3 months.
Oh my gosh.
We wouldn't even dare to do that now. So it is, you do exhibit face is what we call our full face package, but you do that treatment and you are good for 12 to 18 months.
It is such a green flag when a provider tells you no.
Exactly. Yep.
That's what you want.
Yep.
Like if they're saying, no, you're perfect, you're at the right place. Yep. If they're just filling you to fill you, run. Yep. They just want your money.
Yep. And that's the thing too, honesty. Like you want an honest provider, someone that's going to actually tell you no.
Yes. Snap, snap. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in again to our Fill Me In podcast where we dive deep into the world of aesthetics. Don't forget to follow us on our Instagram accounts, Injector Jon,
Aesthetic Nurse Nicole.
And if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications.
And leave us any comments or questions below, and we will fill you in next time.
Love you.